welcome to Lucid Nightcap. Nightcap is what? We are trying to help you to think better in these unsettling times. Why? Because we need to be oriented to truth. So here at Nightcap, this week, this episode, we are going to tackle some current events, things that are happening right now in the political spheres. You're going to hear from Lucas, you're going to hear from Marissa, you're going to hear from Pastor David Englehart, lawyer and pastor. That's my best Pastor David impression. Don't judge me. Welcome for those who are here for the first time. Stay tuned and enjoy it.
Good to have you with us. We have some very engaging material to talk about this week. You know, we've been focusing a lot on Nightcap on current events, how to think about those current events. And I want to talk about a current event tonight that is definitely PG-13, if not rated R in subject matter. But I want to set up why I want to talk about this, because there is a standard church Karen response of like, we don't want to talk about politics, and it's one of the reasons that the church has abdicated the region of engaging in politics, in advocating for righteousness. And God cares deeply about righteousness. I was reading the book of Nahum this morning. And the book, Nahum, is about God wiping out a city called Nineveh in a nation called Assyria. And these guys were really, really bad and really wicked. And, in around 750 BC, God sends a prophet to this place that is engaging in commerce with the people of God and affecting their lives because they're the power source of that time, of that region. You know the story, they repent, and then about 100 years later, God sends this prophetic dream, word, picture that Nahum has, and it's devastating. He says God is not going to just wait around. He's slow, you remember the verse, he's slow to anger, but he will not let wickedness go unpunished forever. And then he says, I'm going to utterly destroy your whole nation, your city. It will be wiped out. It will be not remembered any longer. And there's a bunch of really terrifying and similar pictures. One of the things it says at the end of Nahum is God's describing in detail the sins of the city of Nineveh, as he says, all of the world has seen your unrighteousness, and it is ever before them. And I thought, wow, that sounds like the internet. That sounds like the United States putting out the internet and filth on the internet before and in front of all of the world. Even the relatively conservative parts, or the relatively, I don't even know if you want to say pure, but purer parts, the less defiled parts. God says, through Nahum, he says, Syria, this city of yours is so defiled that I'm going to wipe it out and there's going to be no memory of it. It says, your gates are wide open and I'm going to burn them with fire. And I just thought about the gates of the United States of America that are wide open and an enemy that's marching across our border. Why? Because of the abdication of the people of God in matters of prayer, in matters of public engagement, with a false and syrupy and gross justification, like I'm into more spiritual things. And so you're allowed to be into spiritual things, you're a Christian, but God has called us primarily, all the law and the prophets are summed up in love God and love your neighbor as yourself. So you don't care about the land that you live in and the city that you live in. You are part of the problem. And so this is the end of the last verse of Nahum, 4th chapter, verse 19. It ends on a 19, and in the Bible, 19 is the number of the judgment of God. See Genesis 19, you see Judges 19, and here the book is ending on this 19. It says, there is no easing your hurt, your wound is grievous, mortal. All who hear the news about you will clap their hands over you. They'll rejoice over your destruction and death because of the darkness that you spread. For upon whom has not come your unceasing evil? And there's a place where God's like, I'm done. I hope our nation is not at that place. I hope there's enough righteous people that are praying and advocating and haven't abandoned their position, watching the darkness that's happening and saying, I don't really care about it. And so here at Lucid, this organization that a bunch of us are putting our shoulder in, and you guys supporting, you're putting your shoulder in as well. We're pushing this method forward, which is, the method is like, let's look at the world, but we're going to look at the world through a biblical lens, a worldview, so we understand the things that are really important. So when we hear politicians talk and spin their webs and sell their wares and try to, with entertainment and commerce, drug the people back to sleep, we will be aware. And I don't know if you know this, for instance, I don't know if you like Washington, D.C., like the area, the real estate right outside of the city of Washington, D.C. has exploded in development and value over the last 25 years, maybe 30, but really in the last 25 years, explosion, prices, houses, demand. Guess what Washington, D.C. produces? Nothing. No goods, no services. They take taxes from people and then they buy things with your money. And so there's all kinds of perverse incentives. I don't know if you remember the story when Trump was going to buy from Boeing a Air Force, whatever. And it was, I think, they priced it at $5 billion. Trump said, there's no way I'm buying that airplane for $5 billion. He negotiated it down to whatever it was, 2.8 or $3 million. And you just think, how insane is it that somebody in the government's like, I don't care how much it costs. And someone at Boeing's like, I'm going to take as much as I possibly can from America, this dying ship. And it's a city of perverse incentives. One of the verses in Nahum, it says that your merchants have multiplied themselves beyond the stars of the sky. Your merchants and your dealing and your insane level greed and wealth. And God doesn't like that. There's a story that came out of France this week, and it is horrific. If you want to skip this part, you can skip to somebody kinder than and nicer than I. But a man in France was arrested for taking illicit videos of women in public. He lived in Paris first, and then he moved to a smaller town outside of Paris. So the police went to his house, and they were reviewing all of his hard drives and just seeing what he had. And they found some incredibly heinous video, about 20 years of video of this man that was drugging his own wife and bringing strangers in to violate her for 20 years. Over 80 different strangers with videotapes, and it's one of the most horrific things I've heard of one person doing to another, and it's a very horrible human story. The husband on the stand said no child is born a pervert. He says, that tells this horrific story about when he was a little boy, he was raped when he was 9, and then forced in other illicit, horrible activity as a kid growing up, and it just broke him and twisted him. There's a verse in the Proverbs, and I can't remember the exact reference for it, but it basically says, he who goes down will never come back the same. And so there's something about the permanent damaging effects of sexuality done wrong without Christ's redemption, healing. It's permanently broken. And so this guy is incredibly broken. He gets married. His wife doesn't know about his brokenness, and he lives this incredibly evil life of 20 years of violating his wife. Now, I read the story, and obviously there's initial kind of sticker shock from the story. And then I ask myself this question when something really strange, loud and graphic happens, I always say, is God happened to be saying something through this? Whether it's 9/11 towers or any kind of international event, I'm asking myself, is there some kind of picture? And I just can't help but see, the job of a husband is the job of a leader, the job of a protector who commits vows, he makes vows, declares vows before God, all of his friends, the people that he honors the most, to protect his wife. That's his primary job, is leader, protector. And not only did he abdicate that responsibility, he abdicated that responsibility for decades and hid the abdication of that responsibility from his own wife and drugged her through the experience so that she never knew it was happening. When the police interviewed the wife, he said, they were like, do you know anything about your husband's background or behavior? And she's like, no, he's just a regular good guy. He's just a nice guy. And I just thought, how incredible is it that you could be in a position for 20 years of being violated, and that it's so subtle, it's so planned, it's so intricate that you're not aware of it. And so then I couldn't help but think of the West, and the United States in particular, but many of the Western cultures, and the idea of strangers coming into your house, your land, and stealing from you and violating you, taking your worth. And so sexuality is like did it cause her physical pain? I mean, that's a weird question, but my point is, like, it means, from her husband's perspective and from all these men's, that she has no worth and no value. It deeply, and probably in the most powerful way you could imagine, devalues the human being, that they're not even a human anymore. They are a corpse subject to your perverse pleasure incentive. And that...
Hey, if you want to watch this full episode and others like it, go over to relucid.com, where you will have access to exclusive content once you sign up to become a member. It's only $5 a month. Not a lot of money. Not bad. I think it's not bad. Join the conversation at relucid.com. We'll see you there.